Welcome to the Burrowan branch. This is the second in the occasional series of scratch building tips and techniques that I have learned, adapted, or developed myself. There's often more than one way to tackle a project, and individual modelers use the way that works best for them. I offer these tips because they have worked for me and they may work for you. In this video, I demonstrate how to make timber stairs. Briefly, the materials list consists of 1x6, 1x8 and 2x8 scale lumber, pre-stained with India ink and isopropanol. I used wood glue as the adhesive, but any adhesive that works with timber will suffice. In terms of tools, we have a ruler, vernier caliper, hobby knife with a new blade, tweezers, sanding boards, toothpick to apply the glue, weights and painter's tape to hold pieces. Let's get started. We're making a set of stairs with a 45-degree incline. That means the stringer ends will contact the vertical surface and the ground at 45 degrees. So, cut the ends of 2 lengths of 1x8 scale lumber at 45 degrees. Then, secure them to the work surface so that the ends of each strip match up neatly at 90 degrees. I use painter's tape to hold the pieces in place. Make sure that the tape on each strip is below the lower extent of the stairs. Finally, hold the 2 strips down where they meet. Next, glue the 1x6 strip across the 2 1x8s at right angles to the vertical or plumb line. Weigh this down while the glue sets. The glue will have grabbed sufficiently within a few minutes to allow the strip to be cut and set in place 2 scale inches from the first piece. I use a short strip of 2x4 styrene to create a 2 scale inch gap between the 1x6 strips. I speed up the process by gluing strips above and below the first strip, which will be firmly adhered to the stringers by this time. Continue by adding 1x6 strips to the assembly until the required number of tread gaps have been achieved. That's 6 in this case. Quick digression here. Multiple pairs of stringers can be made at the same time by gluing them inside the assembly at this point. It will save time and material. Note, however, additional 1x6 strips may need to be glued to the additional stringers to get the length required. Okay, back to the first set of stringers. Once the glue is dry, cut the 1x8 strips immediately below the last 1x6 strip. This will set the lowest tread 6 scale inches above the ground or the floor level. Now it's time to separate the stringers by cutting away the excess 1x6 strip. The advantage of a new blade and the hobby knife is clear here, with quick, clean cuts being made with almost no effort. Finally, separate the stringers at the top by using the blade to locate the joint between the 1x8s and cutting there. We move now to fitting the treads. Cut the 2x8 scale lumber to length. I used 3 scale feet for these stairs. I begin by gluing the uppermost and the lowermost treads to one stringer. Make sure that each is positioned correctly in the groove and is vertical to the stringer. Note the tread is not as wide as the stringer, so where the tread sits along the groove will need to be replicated on the second stringer. I aim for 1 scale inch from the back edge. The ruler is holding the end of the stringer down to keep the assembly square. Give the glue 5 to 10 minutes to make a good bond before adding the second stringer. Take a special care to get the treads placed in the same position in the grooves on the second stringer. Give the glue time to harden before fitting the remaining stringers. I usually allow about 30 minutes, time enough to have a cup of tea or coffee. I set 1x8 strips under the assembly so the additional treads are all the same distance from the back face of the stringers. I use metal blocks to hold the assembly square while the glue sets. Some stairs, such as those ending at a deck, have tops that are square with the deck surfaces. Sometimes stringers on stairs that lead to a doorway continue upwards so that the stringer ends are parallel with the wall. In either case, the top end of the model stairs will need to be cut appropriately. In the case of the former, the top of the stringer would be cut along the upper edge of the top 1x6. Here, a small piece of 1x8 lumber is being glued along the top 1x6 to make the stringer end butt up to the wall. Once the glue is dry, the excess lumber is cut away so that the entire stringer is 2 scale inches wide. There we have it, a 6-tread timber stairway that is square and sturdy. In closing, this technique can also be used with styrene or card. Thanks for watching. Happy modelling.